What is behind President-elect Donald Trump's seeming obsession with the Panama Canal?
And also on Trump's agenda, Panama and the vital canal linking the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
President Trump has made repeated claims about the Panama Canal since returning to office, including his contention that China.
United States President Donald Trump has made global headlines with his tough stance on foreign policy. While tariffs and tariffs have been the main focus of United States foreign policy, there is a deeper story on the invisible side of the coin. The purchase of Greenland and the seizure of control of the Panama Canal were Mr. Trump's not-so-secret ambitions. For more than 1 century, the Panama Canal has stood as a monumental canal for maritime trade linking the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The Panama Canal is 82 kilometers long and is one of the most important trade routes in the world. The Panama Canal is used to shorten the length and duration of ocean voyages between the North Atlantic countries and the North and South Pacific countries. It connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans and handles 5% of global trade, which translates into a massive $270 billion worth of cargo every year. Using the canal usually saves 13,000 kilometers and 22 days. It is claimed that ships passing through the canal pay up to $400,000. It is said that 200 million tons of fresh water is used for the passage of a ship. This is among the factors that increase the cost of passage. For all these reasons, Donald Trump does not want United States ships passing through the Panama Canal to bear these heavy costs. In a statement, the United States State Department announced that the Central American country had agreed that it would no longer charge United States government-owned ships to transit the canal. The move was expected to save Washington millions of dollars a year, but the Panama Canal Authority, at the center of the diplomatic storm created by Trump's highly controversial stance, denied free passage to United States ships. This shocking move escalated tensions over the strategic body of water. But a new development has emerged to put all this to rest. Mexico's $5 billion Tehuantepec Isthmus Interoceanic Corridor is now emerging as a transformative alternative. But why is the Panama Canal so important? How will Mexico's latest move affect China? Could the United States leader also retaliate against China to put more pressure on the canal? We will look at the answers to these critical questions in more detail. We will discover what the future state of the Panama Canal will be. But first, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and give us a like to stay up to date with our content. Let's get started. First, let's look at how the United States thinks about Panama.
China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
At a January 7 press conference, Trump was asked by a reporter if the United States could use military force to seize the canal. Trump refused to rule it out, saying he needed the canal for economic security. The president's refusal to rule out invading Panama did not bode well for his respect for national borders in general and Latin America in particular. The Panama Canal has always been tightly linked to external powers. The idea of linking the two great oceans with a man-made canal was first proposed in the 16th century by the Spanish explorer and conquistador Vasco Núñez de Balboa. However, it was only in the 1880s that the French began work on the project, following their success in building the Suez Canal in Egypt. The canal was completed during the United States presidency of Theodore Roosevelt. From the start of the United States project in 1903 until 1979, the Panama Canal and its surroundings remained a de facto United States territory under the Panama Canal Zone Treaty. The United States and Panama would have joint control over the canal for the next 2 decades, until the United States handed it over to Panama in 1999. The construction of the canal was a major undertaking. It cost the Americans about $375 million, making it the most expensive construction project in United States history at the time. The United States also spent an absolutely abundant amount of resources on the construction, maintenance, and successful operation of this major international waterway. Of the 40,000 workers who constructed the canal, more than 5,600 died from accidents and illnesses. But Trump's anger was directed at the injustice that Panamanians have done to the United States in recent years. He falsely claimed that Panama had handed over the operation of this once massive United States project to the Chinese. There has been no confirmation from Panama of Trump's allegations about Chinese authority over the canal. In fact, Panama seemed to have severely frozen its relations with China in recent days. Most recently, for example, Panama withdrew the Belt and Road Agreement with China after pressure from the United States. This has made it less likely that Panama wants a Chinese presence in the canal. So what is China's role in the Panama Canal? Panama claims that there are no Chinese troops in the canal, but CK Hutchison Holdings, a Hong Kong-based firm, manages 2 ports at the canal's entrances. Experts believe this raises competition and security concerns for the United States. Ryan Berg, director of the Americas program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a Washington think tank, said that CK Hutchison will likely have data on all ships coming through the Panama Canal. According to Ryan Berg, China uses its maritime operations to gather foreign intelligence and conduct espionage. Mr. Berg said that China is using or may exercise a certain element of control.
Today I testified in front of the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission. The subject of the hearing was China's strategic approach to Latin America.
Even in the absence of some military confrontation. In response to these statements, the Chinese side has also commented on the issue in order to prevent it from turning into a controversy or a large-scale crisis. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that China will respect Panama's sovereignty over the Panama Canal as always. How does the United States and China's influence in Central America affect the Panama Canal? United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio made a calculated choice by travelling to Panama and Central America first. As Secretaries of State usually start their tenure by travelling to Europe, the Middle East, or even Asia to strengthen their alliances. Marco Rubio's visit to Panama sent a clear message. The United States is determined to reassert its influence in Latin America and the Caribbean amid the People's Republic of China's expanding sphere of influence, while at the same time trying to overcome complexities with a region that is constantly turning to Beijing for economic partnerships and investments. But threatening partners, while a short-term tactical approach, will not be a long-term strategy to better engage economically with the region. The PRC has invested heavily in infrastructure projects, such as building a $1.3 billion port terminal on the Atlantic side of the Panama Canal, which is part of the PRC trying to establish itself in the Western Hemisphere. In 2023, the United States was Panama's largest trading partner, importing a total of $5.29 billion into Panama and $385 million into the United States. In comparison, China's exports to Panama equaled $4.43 billion, and its imports to China equaled $385 million. Now, the United States remains the largest trading partner for Panama, while the PRC is increasing trade, especially in key sectors such as technology and infrastructure. The United States sees this growing influence in its own backyard as a worrying trend. Rubio used his trip to remind Latin American countries that despite the attractiveness of PRC investments, the United States is still a vital partner in the region, especially in Panama, a vital entry point for international trade. President Trump's America First foreign policy, often criticized for emphasizing United States national interests and security over the long-term relationships that have historically defined United States Latin American ties, makes the visit particularly noteworthy.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
However, Rubio's diplomatic efforts appear to be aimed at providing a more nuanced strategy that balances American interests with the need for stronger regional partnerships. Is China in control of the Panama Canal? The Chinese have a long history in Panama. On March 30, 1854, the Sea Witch Clipper arrived in Panama with 705 Chinese to work on the transoceanic railroad that was critical to the construction of the Panama Canal. 171 years later, Trump said that China is running the Panama Canal.
And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
However, Dr. Vasquez, CEO and canal administrator, and Alberto Aleman, former administrator of the Panama Canal Authority PCA, denied allegations that the Panama Canal is controlled by China. At an event sponsored by Woodrow Wilson, Alberto Aleman was asked by former United States Ambassador to Panama John Feely whether the Panama Canal Authority consulted with Chinese government officials. No, only Chinese companies, and we could not consult because we did not have diplomatic relations with China, Aleman replied. China and Panama established diplomatic relations in 2017. What many people do not know is that the PCA is actually an autonomous and apolitical authority that amends Panama's constitution. Thus, no matter which political party is in power, the Panama Canal must remain politically neutral. Its primary purpose is to provide consistent, safe, efficient, and seamless transit for international trade. No Chinese or other foreign entity controls the canal. Because of this and other factors, the PCA currently has a higher credit rating than the Republic of Panama. At the centre of this controversy is CK Hutchison, a company with a 2-century history, owned by Hong Kong's richest man. It operates infrastructure assets around the world, including port terminals at the Atlantic and Pacific ends of the canal, through which 40% of United States container traffic passes annually, according to the Federal Maritime Commission. Rubio said that if the Chinese Communist Party told Hutchison to close the port in Panama, they would have to comply. But Hutchison does not own the land in the ports, and does not have the legal authority to do so, contradicting the Neutrality Treaty. In response to Trump's harsh rhetoric, Panama's President José Raúl Mulino, who has long tried to adopt a pro-American stance, has recently found himself balancing like a tightrope walker. Panama will continue to control the canal, as Mulino has assured world leaders and citizens. However, the United States is increasing pressure on the Panamanian government due to the continued rise of PRC influence in the country, with a potential risk to the Panama Canal. This decision reflects the broader context of United States-China relations, where Washington is concerned about China's ambitions to expand its political and economic influence. As a vital hub for trade routes and an important part of the global economy, Latin America has become an important battleground in this global struggle. During Rubio's visit, the United States was able to reassure Latin American countries that they are not being ignored in favor of more distant priorities. Latin America reacted differently to the Trump administration's America First stance. There have been disagreements between regional leaders and local citizens, with some expressing extreme discontent with Trump's hardline positions on trade, immigration, foreign aid, and the possibility that the United States could reclaim the Panama Canal. Given that Trump's border security proposals have often jeopardized diplomatic efforts in the region, the tough rhetoric on migration in particular has caused a great deal of tension with Latin American leaders. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum was ready to impose reciprocal tariffs while negotiating with Trump. But Rubio's visit offers a chance to rebalance United States-Latin American ties. Although deeply committed to American interests, his strategy should be more pragmatic than the belligerent approach that has characterized Trump's presidency. Rubio assured leaders in Latin America that the United States continues to work together, focusing on regional alliances and curbing Chinese influence. But it is also critical that the United States and China can and do cooperate when their national interests overlap. It is in the interest of all humanity to develop frameworks to work with China and other countries to provide humanitarian assistance affected by natural disasters or global pandemics. What did Rubio achieve as a result? The ability of the United States to increase economic and security alliances with Panama and other Central American countries, and Rubio's ability to persuade these countries to re-evaluate or reduce their economic links with China, are important factors for short-term success. But the real long-term effectiveness of Rubio's visit will depend on the overall capacity of the United States to rebuild a harmonious relationship in Latin America and the Caribbean. This will require not only financial incentives, but also a more comprehensive strategy for regional economic development that addresses issues such as migration, poverty, and corruption. These concerns have long been sources of instability in the region and are issues on which USAID is uniquely positioned. China has begun to fill the vacuum left behind after the Trump administration's abrupt withdrawal of USAID. While Panama was the first country to publicly withdraw from China's Belt and Road Initiative, this does not mean that it cannot easily rejoin in the future. It will also be important to assess how regional leaders will react to the America First policy. Will they see it as a diplomatic misstep or as a reaffirmation of United States power in the region? President Molino remains careful to balance Panamanian demands with American expectations. So where does Mexico's ambitious project fit into this equation? The interoceanic corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, another ambitious route located in southern Mexico, aims to challenge this maritime supremacy. Imagined long before the completion of the Panama Canal, it was a dream fraught with both risk and destruction. Backed by a $5 billion investment, it promises to transform the way the world moves goods. Embroiled in controversy, environmental disputes, and even marred by violence, this project stands at a critical crossroads. Will it redefine global trade networks or stumble under the weight of its historic ambitions? Located on Mexico's narrowest strip between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, the corridor aims to bypass the busy Panama Canal through improved rail networks, highways, and ports. In essence, the corridor promises to create numerous jobs and revitalize economic activity in historically neglected regions. Special economic zones along the route offer attractive incentives such as tax exemptions, making it a magnet for the automotive and technology industries. These zones will transform the corridor into a bustling industrial hub and encourage global brands to set up operations and invest in Latin America's future. As we witness the realization of this major initiative, it is expected to not only strengthen Mexico's position in global logistics, but also significantly impact international trade dynamics. How is Mexico's interoceanic corridor shaping up? On December 22, 2023, an important milestone was reached with the inauguration of the Z Line by Andrés Manuel López Obrador, President of the Interoceanic Railway Mexico. López Obrador announced plans to revitalize Mexico's old railway and establish a new interoceanic corridor, the CIAT or Interoceanic Corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, a modern alternative to the Panama Canal. A few months later, the project was officially announced, including 3 main rail lines: Line Z, Line F, Line A, and Line K. Construction began in June 2020, starting with removing overgrown vegetation, replacing old tracks, and installing brand new infrastructure. Of the 3 planned rail lines, Line Z is the most important route that will directly connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This railway, which is about 227 kilometers or 141 miles long, currently travels daily and completes the journey in about 7 hours, with 8 station stops along the way for passengers. The initial capacity of the train is 400 people and offers seating in the tourist, executive, and executive categories. In the future, the Mexican government has ambitious goals for the corridor. By 2028, the project is expected to transport 300,000 containers per year, positioning the transoceanic corridor as a competitive alternative to traditional sea routes such as the Panama Canal. The 309-kilometer-long line from Coatzacoalcos to Salina Cruz combines advanced machinery and technology, such as ballast regulators, to ensure stability and efficiency. As the corridor develops, it is expected to transport up to 1 million containers a year, showing the potential to become a vital alternative to the Panama Canal. The construction alone aims to create around 15,000 jobs and significantly improve the local economy. The quest to connect these oceans through Tehuantepec carries a fascinating legacy. The story of the Panama Canal is particularly revealing, beginning with a French initiative spearheaded in the late 19th century by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the architect of the Suez Canal. His ambitious project was disastrously hampered by serious engineering obstacles and the debilitating impact of the tropical environment, leading to significant human and financial losses. Prior to the French effort, the Kingdom of Scotland's Darien plan aimed to establish a colony and trade route in Panama in the late 1600s. This plan ended tragically due to harsh conditions and isolation, exacerbating Scotland's economic woes and affecting its political future. These historical events paved the way for the successful completion of the Panama Canal in 1914, which utilised then modern engineering and medical advances to overcome formidable logistical challenges and reshape global maritime trade routes. In parallel, historical figures such as Hernán Cortés in the 16th century recognised the potential of Mexico's Isthmus of Tehuantepec as a strategic link between two great oceans. Although Cortés's initial proposals did not come to fruition, the idea persisted and emphasised the geographic and strategic importance of the region. Today's project faces challenges. Environmental sustainability remains important as the corridor crosses some of Mexico's most biodiverse regions. The corridor's construction and ongoing operation pose potential threats to these ecosystems and raise critical questions about conservation and environmental impact. Indigenous communities along the route face potential upheaval to their traditional way of life. Balancing economic development with cultural heritage and environmental protection requires careful consideration. Despite these controversies, once completed, the project could become a serious competitor to Mexico's transoceanic corridor, the Panama Canal. This could change the balance in the geopolitical arena. What do you think about this? We would be glad if you share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching us.